Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's 1 million by 1 million online rendezvous. 1M by 1M, as you know, is the first and only global virtual accelerator in the world. Our mission is to help 1 million entrepreneurs reach $1 million and beyond in annual revenue. And in support of that mission, we do a lot of work through various different touch points, all digital, all virtual. And these sessions that we've been doing for a while now, every week, are part of that effort. We are live right now on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. And for those of you who were listening to the earlier session, we got disconnected. So I'm going to restart the session, and you will see a little bit of a repeat, because if you're following along again, you will hear a little bit of a repeat, but I will obviously have a lot more material to cover. Just bear with all these online services that are powering our ability to work together globally. Whether it's Social Live, which is the software we're using to broadcast to you, or LinkedIn, which is making this possible as a platform to do this kind of live broadcast, or WebEx or Zoom, or any other online mechanism through which we are fortunate enough to be working together as digital workers, are all facing a level of scalability challenge that they have not seen before. Zoom went from 10 million users to 200 million users within a couple of weeks. No technology knows how to scale to that extent without hitting some bottlenecks. So let's just be, for the moment, let's just be patient and tolerant of people's technical challenges. I want to spend today's session primarily on an issue that is on everybody's mind, which is the timeline of when the economy will start getting back on its feet again. I know many of you who are listening to me are entrepreneurs who have specific problems in your specific businesses. And I am absolutely here for you to help you with all of that. That's what we do in 1 million by 1 million. So if you want to discuss your particular business situation with me, every Thursday morning, we have the free public roundtables. Please come to those. You can go to our website, 1mby1m.com, and go to free public roundtables, and all the instructions are there. You can register to pitch over there, and Maureen will send you instructions on how to prepare for that pitch, and I will go through your challenges, your issues in one of those Thursday morning sessions, and those sessions are held over WebEx. So absolutely bring us your problems. We want to work on your problems, and we want to advise you on how to put one foot before the other and how to deal with this situation. In normal times, that's what we do. In 1 million by 1 million, the free public roundtables are free mentoring sessions from which entrepreneurs from all over the world attend. Over 150,000 people have been at these sessions. So it's widely available. It is absolutely something that you should take advantage of as much as you need to. And these are available every Thursday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific time. Just do the conversion to your time zone, and happy to work with you. In today's session, and in the LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter live sessions, what I do is mostly take questions. And today, the question on everybody's mind is, when are we going to get back to some sort of a normal economic condition? And that's where we're going to start today's discussion. The question that we are facing is, how soon should this lockdown be opened up? That is the first question, and you must be seeing a lot of news articles right now on protests happening from the right-wing, extreme right libertarians who believe that The economy needs to be opened up. We are under government edict, we are being forced to stay quarantined, and that is a violation of individual privacy, blah, blah, blah. And there are states and cities that are opening up and countries that are opening up. So some are doing it judiciously, some are doing it stupidly. And I want to spend some time today discussing what is the problem and how should we think about this. We are in the midst of an anthropological event, an unprecedented situation, a moment of history that we are living that posterity will read about. I have received requests from my audience to synthesize my thoughts on the COVID-19 crisis. I can only synthesize my current thoughts at the moment, but as I learn more, they may morph as we go along, and I think this needs to be the current spirit of all discussions. We're all learning. The politicians are learning, the scientists are learning, the economists are learning, the businesses are learning. Everybody is learning how to deal with this unprecedented situation. So with that, here's a summary of a few points. The first is the timeline of economic reopening. I would like things to be mostly shut down until the risk becomes manageable. I am not at all a risk-averse person. I'm an entrepreneur. However, I don't believe that we can take such risks on other people's lives. Treatments, tests, vaccine, and hospital capacity are the core determining factors on when to open up. 70 vaccine projects are underway at drug companies and universities. Numerous drug trials as well. We need to buy time. How much? A lot, it seems. But the answer is to be decided through further careful scientific analysis by experts, not by politicians with re-election agendas, nor by people concerned about their stock portfolios. This virus is terribly contagious. Angela Merkel, Andrew Cuomo, as well as others are openly discussing a sensible scientific strategy. Merkel is a PhD in physics. Unfortunately, America is not led by such an educated person. So I like what Merkel and Cuomo are saying, and here is a scientific explanation of how they are thinking about the opening up issue. At the core of the suppress and lift strategy is one key number, RT, or the real-time effective reproductive number. RT tells us a virus's actual transmission rate at a given time, T. That is, in a particular population at a particular time, how many other people will catch the disease from a single infected person. This is the concept that Merkel explained so well. She noted that the RT in Germany was currently around 1, meaning that on average, a person with the virus infects one other person. 1 is a critical threshold. Below 1, the epidemic gradually fades out. Above 1, it will grow, possibly exponentially. Second, the economic effect of such shutdown on those who cannot earn a livelihood by working from home. In the trade-off between life and livelihood, we are facing a moral question. My conclusion is that for a while, livelihood disruption needs to be compensated by governments and billionaires. We have to accept livelihood disruption to protect lives. In America, a universal basic income of $2,000 a month for a year, say that adds up to $25,000 per family per year, for a year. Let's say this needs to go to 100 million families that make below a certain threshold of income. That adds up to about $2.5 trillion. It's very expensive, but in this situation, it's worth considering. In India, the per year per family number is much lower because cost of living is lower. That would be about $2,000, let's say. And if that needs to go out to 300 million families, That's $600 billion. This is also doable. Globally, we're talking many trillions, but so be it. It's not forever. It is for a year, maybe two. Extreme case, we won't remain shut down for that long. But I'm just presenting a theoretical framework to think about the issue. Third, personal liberty and privacy. Effective contact tracing on an ongoing basis requires giving up personal liberty and privacy. If what's at stake is life and death, this is a no-brainer. Technology can play a big role. Again, need to buy time to create the right architecture, and it is eminently doable. Has to be done through global intergovernmental collaboration, coordinated by the WHO. Now is not the time to defund the WHO. Number 4 is democracy. Direct democracy has never been a good model. We are facing use cases showing the limits of that model in religious gatherings that become viral spread hotspots, spring breakers going out to party on beaches, and numerous others. Yesterday, some imam died in Bangladesh. For his funeral, 100,000 people showed up. The country is under lockdown, but people didn't honor that lockdown or respect that lockdown. This is stupid. Indirect democracy, governments run with the help of proper expertise like Dr. Fauci, is a perfectly reasonable model. I don't think a better one exists right now. So policy needs to drive behavior. We have to assume great stupidity exists in society and use policy for common good. If we don't prevent stupid people making independent decisions, the casualty level of this crisis will be much higher. Remember, suicide is a personal choice. If you decide that you want to commit suicide, no one should stop you. No one can make that decision on your behalf, really, that you shouldn't commit suicide. I think just like, life is a choice. Death is also a choice. I should just be able to decide when I want to die. But homicide is not a personal choice. You can get infected by COVID-19 by being reckless. That's fine. But you cannot make the decision to infect other people. That is homicide. You don't have the right to do that. Democracy doesn't give you that right. And given what's going on in society right now, governments need to protect the population from such homicide. That's why we need policy. That's why we need lockdowns. That's why we need shelter in place. Given where we are currently, the next decade is likely to face an immense Darwinian process, an anthropological rationalization of populations. Tremendous global suffering is in order. I think most of the world will organize into two buckets: humanists and fascists. Fascists would want self-preservation and cleansing of the weaker segments of the population. Humanists, while acknowledging the inevitability of this evolutionary process, would try to mitigate the suffering and slow down the eradication of parts of the species. And this is where universal basic income, universal healthcare, these things come in. I am a humanist. You need to decide what you are. What are you? I leave you with a simple question. If you are advocating opening up of the economy, are you willing to go out there and take the personal risk of getting infected and potentially dying? Or are you advocating that other people take those risks on your behalf while you continue to self-quarantine? It's one thing to sit on your computer and pontificate about the economy needing to open up. It's another thing to go out there and take the personal risk yourself. We are on the favorable side of the digital divide. We can afford to self-quarantine. We can live, work, and learn from our computers. In this survival of the fittest battle, we are fitter than most of the species. I want to give you one more data point to think about this. The world's 2,153 billionaires have more wealth than the 4.6 billion people who make up 60% of the planet's population. This is a report from Oxfam. This adds to close to $10 trillion. Jeff Bezos, in the COVID crisis, has already made $24 billion. So we do have the resources, the wherewithal in the world to go ahead and solve the problem with humanity, with empathy. We don't know whether the world's billionaires are interested in doing this, but we do need to know that they can and are willing to do this. Bill Gates is doing it. Bill Gates is putting all his resources on the line and trying to solve the problem. He's funding, vaccine development capacity, scaling vaccine manufacturing capacity, knowing fully well that not all of these investments are going to work. Some of it is going to basically get wasted because the vaccine that he is trying to ramp up production facility for may not work. He doesn't know whether it'll work or not, but he is doing it in a very scientific, very thoughtful way. His example is the one that people need to follow. I don't see that level of thought or that level of care from Jeff Bezos when it comes to his wealth. Where he's doing a very good job is in ramping Amazon up. Amazon is currently operating like a utility. It is the lifeline to supplies for a lot of people. Amazon has hired. They are maxed out, absolutely maxed out. Amazon has just hired 100,000 people, and like this morning I saw that they're going to hire another 75,000 people. So in that sense, Jeff Bezos is doing his part because he is providing one of the key infrastructure pieces that we need to go through this crisis. Okay, so that's my, somewhat large overview of how we need to think about this. There are some key questions that I'm going to address in this context. The main one is, what can we expect? When can we expect to have pharmaceutical drug or vaccine for the coronavirus, COVID-19? There are 2 drugs and many more under investigation that look promising at the moment: hydroxychloroquine and remdesivir. Results from gold standard trials are expected in June. If either or both work, then opening up broadly this summer is a no-brainer. This is the best case scenario. You can read more detailed, credible analysis provided by Wired and The Economist. If treatment can be administered without overwhelming hospital capacity is available, the kind of treatment that can be administered without overwhelming hospital capacity may be administered from home. If that's available within a couple of months, we're in April right now, if this is available by June, then the fact that vaccines may take 18 months or longer to come is okay. We can manage the intermediate situation with the drug. However, opening up the lockdowns without severe checks and balances now, in my assessment, would be inviting massive second wave cases and deaths. I would like to point you to New York Governor Andrew Cuomo and his address, his briefing on Sunday, April 19th, 2020. He makes a clear, balanced case with numbers on what would happen if cases surge. So go look that up, and that's my position on the subject. All my research shows that we need to stay locked down for longer. All right, we'll do another question. Should governments lift the COVID-19 lockdowns and let citizens make their own decisions on how they want to behave? I've heard from many people a comment that needs a specific underscoring and response. People should be free to make their own decisions. There are protests happening in America as we speak, calling for opening up because shelter-in-place order is a violation of civil liberty. It's a violation of democratic rights, blah, blah, blah. I could not disagree more. There are places that are opening up, but some are doing so very, very carefully with clear policy guidelines on what can be open and how. Austria, Austria is opening up. You can listen to Farid Zakaria's interview of the Austrian Chancellor from Sunday, April 19th on the GPS show on CNN. They're opening with baby steps. Germany is opening up with baby steps and lots of restrictions. Those that are opening up without adequate policy guidelines seem unfortunate mishaps. Hashtag Florida Morons is now a hashtag because people are flocking to beaches like, well, morons. Georgia just decided to open up without consent from the governors of two of its largest cities, Atlanta and Augusta. Last night, the mayor of Atlanta was on television complaining about this. So, it's really problematic when people do things recklessly. Let us monitor the numbers as we go along, and the trends should speak for themselves. Those that are opening up without adequate regulation should do better, with adequate regulation, should do better than those who trust the public's ability to make judgment calls on their own. You cannot trust the public's ability to make judgment calls under these conditions. And this is the crux of the problem facing us. The public is not intelligent enough to make good choices for common good. The libertarians may bristle at this idea, but liberty should not be trusted in the hands of the masses capable of infecting large numbers of people. Remember what I said, suicide is okay, homicide is not. Governments have a responsibility to prevent homicide. And here's some data and some use cases that will make you fully grasp the problem. As Reuters reports, during the week of February 17th, hundreds of worshippers from around the world attended an annual celebration at the Christian Open Door Evangelical Mega Church in Mulhouse, a city in eastern France, near the country's border with Germany. One of the congregants carried the disease. The first case linked to the church was identified on February 29th. Over the following weeks, experts traced some 2,500 infections back to the event. Worshippers at the church had unwittingly taken the disease caused by the virus home to the West African state of Burkina Faso, to the Mediterranean island of Corsica, to Guyana in Latin America, to Switzerland, to a French nuclear power plant, and into the workshops of one of Europe's biggest automakers. In India, of the 14,378 infections reported as of 2 days ago, 4,291 are from the Markaz event held in New Delhi's Nizamuddin area in March. The New York outbreak began in New Rochelle on March 2nd. An attorney attended synagogue congregation. Religious congregations are one of the biggest risk factors for inciting incidents. During these trying times, people's need for comfort in their faiths is extremely high. We're constantly reading about pastors who are refusing to shut down their churches and creating hotspots. Without policy, this cannot be controlled. And thus, the libertarian desire for liberty currently and for the foreseeable future needs to be suspended. So that's my, point of view on this question of civil liberty and democracy and free will of the people. People should make their own decisions, blah, blah, blah. I think it's baloney mostly. Absolutely no reason to rely on democratic free will to protect people. So which segments of the economy should be opened up? When do we open up? Which segments should be opened up? And even when we remain under lockdown, what needs to be open still to keep things going? We have to keep things going. Food production and the supply chain of food Healthcare and the medical supply chain, masks, ventilators, these are essential things that we need. Protective gear, personal protective gear. These need to stay open. Even in lockdown, they need to stay open. I don't think the entire economy will collapse more or less based on a slower reopening. The economy will collapse anyway. There are trade-offs and decisions that need to weigh those trade-offs on what else needs to be kept open. E-commerce right now is booming. The trend is here to stay. So e-commerce stays open, essential e-commerce, not gratuitous e-commerce. You don't necessarily need to do fashion shopping right now, and you don't need to jeopardize delivery workers to deliver your, vanity buys. But essentials, whether it's food or household supplies and stuff that keep, life going, groceries, that needs to stay open. So e-commerce, a segment of e-commerce needs to stay open, not all of e-commerce needs to stay open. Zoom, Netflix, these are digital services that are helping us deal with the mental health aspect of this quarantine. Zoom helps us connect with people. Zoom is not the only one. There are many other digital communication services that are helping us keep in touch with people and keep our businesses running. Those of us who are working, and this is huge numbers of people right now. This is a trend that is here to stay, and this needs to stay open, obviously. And there's nothing preventing this from staying open. Netflix and that whole category of online entertainment, of course it needs to stay open. And it can stay open without causing any harm to anybody. It's not jeopardizing its workers, nothing. So these are fine. Restaurants, unfortunately, are getting wiped out. People are cooking at home, and that's a good thing. People cooking at home is a good thing. But the restaurant industry is a very large employer, and not just people who work at restaurants. Remember, there's a tremendous supply chain of restaurants, food, farms, small farms who cater to, high-end restaurants, farm-to-table restaurants. This whole ecosystem is really struggling. On this, I will point you to a wonderful segment that 60 Minutes did on Sunday night. On what chef Jose Andreas, he's a Spanish chef, very well-known Spanish chef. He is providing tremendous leadership to the restaurant industry, and he wants restaurants to be funded by the government to stay open and provide delivery and provide food to the poor people, to people who are struggling and who don't have access to food. So that keeps the restaurant workers working, keeps the supply chain supplying into these restaurants, and keeps the poor people who are struggling for food fed. I think this is brilliant. I think we need to support this work, whether it's governments or billionaires, I don't care who, but somebody needs to support Jose Andrea's work and help him scale it. And that will be a great thing for the next couple of years to keep these restaurants in place and productive, and that whole supply chain working. Local retail is struggling, and e-commerce is benefiting on the other side of it, but local retail is struggling. Actually, the truth is a lot of retail, e-commerce included, is struggling if you're not in the non-essential segments. Okay, I could go on and on. Movie theaters cannot open in the foreseeable future. Sports and concert venues cannot open in the foreseeable future. The cruise industry cannot open. Cruise industry is not going to open for a long, long time. Airlines are struggling. One of our favorite airlines is Virgin Atlantic. We go to London a lot on Virgin, and Richard Branson has said that he cannot keep Virgin going. He's willing to provide his island. Richard Branson is a very rich man. He's willing to provide his private island as collateral to get loans to keep his airlines going. But at the moment, Virgin Atlantic, Virgin Australia are unable to keep going. And this is true about most airlines out there. Hotels are struggling. People are just not traveling and will not travel, cannot travel now, and will not travel for the foreseeable future, except for essentials. So this is, just a bit of a segmented view of what's happening and what is likely to happen. There are geographical issues, there are geographical segmentation, and there is industry-wise segmentation that you will see as places open up. Singapore, by the way, has a second wave going on right now. I thought Singapore was okay, but Singapore has identified this migrant worker population that live in dormitories that have, I haven't seen the numbers from today, but yesterday's numbers were already very bad numbers. So, and definitely places like New York, dense population places like New York cannot open up. Mumbai cannot open up. It is kind of opening up a little bit, but I'm really, really nervous about what will happen if places like Mumbai and Calcutta open up. Utah has opened up. Utah is okay. I think Utah's numbers are very low. Of course, I don't know what the Mormon churches are going to do and if that's going to create, again, inciting incidents. But anyway, so this is just a little kind of framework you can work out. If you're worried about a particular segment, you can work out what would happen in those. I think I've gone pretty long for today. There are lots of other questions that I have collected that I will keep answering. I will pick them up in the next session. Meanwhile, let me remind you, if you are an entrepreneur in the digital domain, which is the domain that we work in 1 Million by 1 Million, we are the first and only global virtual accelerator in the world, and we are here for you. We are open. We have not closed for one day. We have always been virtual. We continue to be virtual, and you can access us online and come and work with us on your particular business, your particular challenges. So every Thursday morning, we have our online strategy roundtables, and you're very welcome to come any Thursday and get specific input on your specific business. So that's the way to work with me. That's the best way for you to access the services that begin accessing the services that we provide. So we are just basically going to go on and continue providing those services on an ongoing basis. With that, I bid you goodbye for today. I will answer questions in the public chat after this session, and keep sending questions. We'll pick them up and answer them next time. Bye, everybody. Thank you for coming today.